Good evening and welcome to another episode of Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review. I am DM Bluddworth, and as you can see by the graphics, tonight's video is an unscripted and unchained first look and preview of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles RPG. This was originally printed in 1985. I have the 1986 printing of it, which is sometimes referred to as the black letter or black title printing. And, I also have a PDF of the revised edition, which came out a few years later. And I can certainly see what they revised because one of the controversies of this particular edition, I'm guessing, you get right from the jump start. So I'm glad that I got this copy. I'm going to show it off to you. I'm going to go through it. Like I said, I do have the PDF of the later version, and I might refer to that later on so I can keep this one in really good condition. But without further ado, let me show you what I picked up recently in an eBay snag. I'm going to call it a snag because it was a great price for what I got. And then when I started digging into it and started looking at what other prices were out there, I made a steal. So let's go right to here. So this is what I'm talking about. So this is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Other Strangeness by Eric Wuchek, and I believe he just recently passed away. So, this is what they call the black title. So in later editions, this is like a bright yellow orange, much more bolder, and I'll show you that that cover. This particular book here is in really, really good condition. I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing what condition it's in. It's been barely, I don't see any signs of it actually being opened, or certainly not fully opened up. And one thing I love, it just has that old book smell. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it just reminds me of, it's definitely what I consider to be an OSR. It's another argument I will make that I consider old school role playing any role playing system. So OSR isn't just Dungeons and Dragons or Dungeons and Dragons retro clones or Dungeons and Dragons Renaissance. That's not for me, what the OSR really stands for. For me, the OSR stands for any game system that's going back to the first 2 decades, let's say, of role playing in general. And I play a lot of games from back then, and I'm really looking forward to digging into this as well. So I got that book there. I also got After the Bomb. All right, so this was the 3-book collection on eBay. Again, really, really good condition, and I'm told that this is a hard to find, color of the cover and such. So this is likewise a 1986. Now this is copyrighted 1986, unlike the others. So I'm assuming that this might actually be the first printing as well. So After the Bomb, and once I'm done going through the core rules, I will go through After the Bomb next. And then Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Adventures, and again, in very, very good condition. I mean, you can see that it's, it's still great color to it. Again, this book here is probably 86 as well. Yes, this is 86 as well. Copyrighted 86, and most likely the first printing. And so I will spend some time with this as well on doing a video. So let's start flipping through this and going through this one here. So here we go. And let me just adjust my camera a tiny bit and see. I may have to adjust here and there. And let's go. So it's written by Eric Wujcik, and then we have the editors, and these are going to be tough names: Alex Marcinsin, Kevin Sabeda. Kevin Eastman is the cover painting, interior art by Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman. Those are the original cartoonists, comic book artists of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The art direction is by Kevin Sembeda. I kind of know after reading through this and going through that first section of it, now I see why Palladium Books has such a negative reputation on Twitter, and you'll know as soon as I get to it. But so this is not quite my first read through. I wanted to just see what I was going to try to focus on, and I'm really trying not to bend this page that much because that's really how fresh the binding and everything is on it. So I'm going to go right into it. The concept behind that of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is novel but not new. Over the years, there have been animal characters in virtually every comic book ever created. From Cerebus the Aardvark through the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, from Superdog through the Cat in the American Flag, Bugs Bunny through Howard the Duck, there's been a fascination with animals that mimic the human form or habit. And where would Tom Terrific be without Manfred the Wonder Dog? None of this is even a modern trend. Students of Japanese art will recognize the delightful caricatures of priests, peasants, and samurai depicted as mice, rabbits, and other common animals. This game merely offers animals as characters to the many players in role-playing games. However, to get back to the games, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is meant to be a complete role-playing experience. You can use Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to play anything from a quickie tournament to a lifetime campaign, no matter how you use the game on its own with Heroes Unlimited or even with some other comic style role-playing game. It should be complete and enjoyable role-playing experience. So how can a game based on a single set of comic book characters be complete? Simple. This game lays out all the rules needed to create any kind of animal character. Whatever their mutants or biological experiments, the player can roll up a character that's playable and balanced. And they go through, so you can play this in conjunction with Heroes Unlimited in that rule book, or you can play it as a standalone. You don't necessarily, they give you enough rules to use just this in playing the game, which I like because I don't have Heroes Unlimited. I'm pretty sure we may have played this in my gaming group back then. I certainly didn't own it back then. I think we tried Heroes, but we really did favor. We tried Champions. I know we tried Champions, but we did favor Villains and Vigilantes second edition over those. And we never played Marvel at the time. I think when Marvel first came out, you were kind of tied to playing just a handful of characters, and they were pre-gen, and we tended to like games where you can make your own characters up. And so that he goes into the random character generation and the rationalization behind it. So they make an argument here, and they said that there was actually quite some controversy back, I guess, in the mid 80s, 80, 85, 86, and so on, within the role-playing community. I don't like when they use that term, but he argues here that many players push back on the idea of randomly creating characters, and he talks about the rationale. All right, he addresses their argument. All right, so he says there's a fair amount of controversy in role playing game community about random character generation. Chiefly, some players complain that it is not as much fun as as it is to create their own characters. All right, not as much fun or challenging to roll up characters off a table as it is to create their characters. There is some validity to the argument. Regardless of our personal opinions on the subject, you are free to do what you will with the game. If you are the game master, then simply let the players create their characters according to your own preferences. If you are a player, then lobby your game master for whatever changes you feel will make for the most playable game. However, here are a few good reasons to retain the random character generation system. 1. Excellent players can roleplay anything. Granted, the play testers that I and the other folks at Palladium have at their disposal are superb. An excellent player can play any character and see a weak character as a challenge, not a liability. And they go through. He continues to argue, the point that, there's when you have characters that don't have everything at their ready disposal. They don't have all the powers that they're supposed to have, and he talks about actually stripping them of some of the powers that they'll eventually have just to start out at. And it forces the players to role play their characters more so than just rely on what is on the character sheet. And there's a difference between playing the character and playing the character sheet. And that's the argument that he's making, back here in 1986. That's the argument that he's making. And it's an argument that actually goes on today. It's one of the things that some modern role-playing games don't do very well. They give too much on the character sheet, too much emphasis on the character sheet, and you end up with players that are either min-maxing or they're just loading up that character sheet with all kinds of details and everything like that, and it kind of restrains them, it contains them within their character sheet, and not enough freedom to just let happen what happens, and to not rely on the character sheet. And he goes on how to play role playing. I'm not going to get into that. How to imagine your character, imagine the setting that the character is in, and so on. And he gets to the character creation part. So step 1 is the 8 attribute, attribute bonuses, and this one here really caught me by surprise because I don't recall this system. So you're going to roll 3d6 for the characteristics, right? There's 8 attributes, and that's very uniform. All right, but here it says indicates that if you roll a 16, 17, or 18, that means that you're exceptional. So if you rolled a 16, then whatever attribute that was is going to get an additional d6 added to it to make it a truly exceptional attribute for them. So I thought that was pretty cool. I was like, wow, that's an interesting mechanic. You actually have like exploding dice basically for attribute creation. Goes on and talks about hit points, and I'm going to do a whole video on just creating a random character. So this is just a preview of what the next episode is going to be, and I'm getting into this point here, but I'm not going to dig very much deeper. You have animal types that you're going to roll, and your animal types, they fall under animal hero characters. You have urban, rural, wild birds, and zoo. And so once that's determined, then you will come to this chart here, and I'll let the focus catch up a little bit. Maybe I'll do this. Maybe that will help, sort of. All right. So urban animals are dogs, cats, mouse, I should say mice, rats, pet rodents like guinea pigs or hamsters, squirrels, sparrows, pigeons, pet birds like parakeets or budgies, bats. What kind of pet? All right, well, I guess urban animals, bats, turtles, frogs, and monkeys. Rural animals are dogs, cats, cows, pigs, chickens, ducks, horses, rabbits, mouse, sheep, goat, turkeys, and bats. Wild animals are wolves, coyotes, foxes, badgers, black bears, grizzly bears, mountain lions, bobcats, lynx, wolverines, weasels, alligators, otters, beavers, muskrats, raccoons, opossum, skunks, porcupines, moles, martens. I'm not quite sure what that is. Armadillos, deer, elk, moose, and boar. I have half of that stuff in my backyard. Um, Wild birds are sparrows, robins, and so on. All kinds of birds. I'm not going to get into details here. Zoo animals are lions, tigers, leopards, cheetahs, polar bears, crocodiles or alligators, aardvarks, rhinoceros, hippopotamuses, uh, elephants, chimpanzees, orangutans, gorillas, monkeys, baboons, camels, and buffalo. The cause of their mutation, you would randomly roll that as well. The wild animal education table, that's kind of interesting. Biological energy points, and like I said, this is just an overview. I'm just flipping through for the first time in some cases, although I will point out where I skimmed ahead. I was looking for what did they have an issue with. Looks like you have some kind of lycanthropy here going on here. So human attributes and so on. So you have pretty cool stuff. They have alignments. Yeah, so that I guess that argument of D&D is the only game that had alignments. This clearly had good, selfish, and evil. All right, so everything fell within those three categories, I guess. Kind of interesting that they have selfish as being the neutral. No neutral alignments. There is no such thing. Oh, well, here we go. There is no such thing as an absolute or neutral alignment. An absolute, true neutral person could not make a decision, fight crime, go adventuring, kill, or take any action or of any kind without leaning towards good, evil, or selfish gratification. It is humanly impossible and is therefore eliminated in the context of this game. All right, so you have it right there. All right, you cannot be neutral in in the author's eyes. Pretty cool. So kind of interesting that he would specifically come out and say that because that that's directed to a D&D player, and possibly even TSR at the time. Just a disagreement about alignment there. So we get to the insanity part, and like I said, I am going to go through all of this, and here lies the controversy. All right, and I know someone told me, oh, it has to do with the insanity tables. And when I looked at the expanded version, I saw that they were gone. So I said, all right, so it must be here. So let me take a look and see where it comes through. So I'm reading through, and I'm reading insanity. So there's trauma, there's drug-induced and hallucinogenics. There's witnesses of experiencing shocking, grotesque atrocities. There's terrible, frightening, or unusual brush with death. There's witnessing the terrible or shocking death of a deeply loved one, a severe physical disability, the cause accidental or several innocent people's deaths. So I'm like, all right, I'm not seeing anything that just jumps out at me. All right, well, it doesn't fall under trauma. Then I get to the insanity tables. And so I see neurosis, phobias, and psychosis, and affective disorders. So I come here and I start reading. Well, let's see what the affective disorders are. Frightened, disgusted, obsessed, outraged, hates, and intimidated. So nothing really jumps out there to me. The neurosis, fear of the dark, fear of animals, cannot tell the truth, or sexual deviation. And then that's where I hit what the issue was. All right. And in today's modern, modern sensibilities, this is going to be a big problem. And I guarantee you this is what Twitter has lost their mind over. So, under the neuroses and under sexual deviation, you have homosexuality, you have fetishism, you have pedophilia, you have transvestitism, exhibitionism, sadism, masochism, necrophilia, anti-sex, basically prudish behavior, satyr or nymphomania, which is the exact opposite of prudish, and you have voyeurism. So they list homosexuality and transvestites, and I'm sure transgenderism wasn't in the lexicon of people back then. It wasn't in society back then, and so it would have been in here if it was a thing back then. So there's the controversy, and once I hit that, I was like, oh, okay, I can see what they're talking about. Psychosis is hysterical blindness. Let's see if there's any other, things that are coming up. Manic depression, schizophrenia, mindless aggression, becoming a psychiatrist. Becoming a psychiatrist you can attempt. So that's kind of interesting that they put it in there. Various phobias that they go through, just looking for things that stand out. I guarantee you that's the section that causes the all of the fervor. So skipping through, they talk about drug addiction and alcoholism. And then we get into the education and skills. And like I said, I will go through this. I will create a character and create a completely random character for the, for that particular episode. Let's see what else we have here. So we have the skills section. We have hand-to-hand combat. And if there's anything really controversial in the skills section, please feel free to point it out. That way I can focus on it when we get to it. But again, this is just a preview and a first look. Equipment, there shouldn't be anything controversial about equipment unless they have some kind of a section on something that shouldn't be in there. Miscellaneous, additional weapons. The animal section, psionics and descriptions. I've never been a big fan of psionics. So I'll be interested to see how it kind of plays out here. I mean, the artwork is incredible. But it's Laird and Eastman, so of course it's going to be very, very good. We go into animal descriptions, aardvarks, alligators, apes. Let's take a look at a monster's, an animal stat. So let's look at the alligator here. So we have a description. We have the size level is a 9. Its length, 220 feet, but 6 feet is common. About 175 pounds. Its build is long. Mutant changes, costs. Total bio, E is 40. Attribute bonuses, PS, PE, and speed is +3, +1, +1. Human features. Hands, 5. Biped is possible. Speech is possible. That's what it would cost to have those attributes or human features in the mutation. Looks none, large snout, no. All right, so bio E, 5 points, I guess, for partial definite snout, no external ears, noticeable. Okay. So basically telling you how to modify a basic character, I guess, into having these traits and abilities. Going through, they have the original characteristics, and then they have the mutated characteristics of each of these. Again, a very, very quick go through, let it catch up. Wow, that's an incredible picture. The artwork alone is fantastic. Here we have Splinter. Splinter has a very, very different look there, doesn't he? I also recall that there might have been a problem with the actual comic that's in here. So I'm going to have to give this a read as well and see what the issue was. They might have just removed it, you know, for the sake of the artist. They might have had a separation, or there might have been a limitation on how long they can. I don't know. I don't know why. I just recall somebody mentioning that there was an issue with the comics that were inside the book as well, and those were removed. So let's take a look. I'm just flipping through now. Yeah, you have two different. Now this is the origin of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, so that's going to be very short. And then we have April O'Neil. All right. And some of the more, you know, the well-known characters that are in there. So let's take a look at. I'm going to take a look at the PDF, which I have beneath here, and let's switch over to it. So let's see if we can figure out what the deal is. So I am going to scroll through, and unfortunately this kind of is a little bit jerky. Now this is the 1985. So but this one here is the 8th printing of 89. So you can see that even though it's the original copyright of 85, between 86 when the book that I was just going through, and 89 in the 8th printing, this is where they made those changes. So you're going to notice right away, and I haven't done a page by page, you know, comparison other than to look for that section on insanity, which came right after hit points. And you can see we have the animal types, we have the causes of mutation, we have, we continue, we go to the character and team characters. You can see some of the order. We have the alignments, and they talk about the alignments as I went over it. And the experience points, which I glossed over, they jump right to, right after experience points, they jump right to education and skills. And the skills lists, you can see the insanity portion has been completely removed. And again, I haven't done any comparison yet between the two, but I have a feeling that that was the major issue. Let's see if the cartoons were removed. I can actually go faster, I believe, this way. Yeah, let's see if the comic strips have been removed. I have a feeling they have been. You still got the great art, though. There just seems to be less of it. Oh no, they do have the comic art. So they have a comic book here. That's the one. They go into the combat system, which I'll do a separate video on. it's kind of weird that they have the game mechanics like near the end of the book rather than or like sandwiched in the middle. Actually, we are. Then they go into equipment lists, the game master section. Have a couple adventures in here, which I didn't notice in the other. So that might be an addition. That was the origin story, then the common characters. Character sheet. Well, it's funny, I didn't see a character sheet in this one. Maybe I just missed it, or like I said, that's a first look. It's you don't come across everything. No, there is no character sheet in. That's amazing. There's no character sheet in this. In this, this version of the book. So no character sheet. Very odd. I've never seen that before. All right. So we have a character sheet. And then the back cover. So oh, I hope that probably did not work. So, geez, that probably didn't work. If it didn't work, because I have a black screen here, why? I don't know. I'll have to double check and make sure that actually worked. I know when I just scrolled that over, it should have just kept it going, but maybe it black screened it, and that would be unfortunate. But I'll have to double check and make sure. So once again, I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, it was a first look. It's I will revisit this. I will go through each of those major sections and do character creation and walk you through. Hopefully that wasn't a black screen at the end, and you were able to see what I was flipping through the PDF. And if it wasn't, then I'm gonna have to go back and redo the whole video again. But I'm hoping that this is a one take shot. As it should be. Unscripted and Unchained is meant to be, really unscripted and not go through multiple videoing or recordings of the same content. So, hope you liked this video. Hope it went well. And, thanks for joining. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it. If you have any questions or comments, if you're really familiar, I know at least one of my subscribers there is a real big fan of this, and I know he's going to jump in and say, oh, take a look at this, take a look at that, and I'm looking forward to that. So please feel free to jump it. Tell me, take a look at this, focus on this, and I will make sure that I do that in upcoming videos. So once again, thanks for joining. Have a great rest of your weekend. I look forward to seeing you on a gaming screen sometime soon, and just keep on gaming out there. There's so much out there. If you haven't experienced the OSR yet, the OSR is not just Dungeons and Dragons. The OSR is not just Dungeons and Dragon clones. It's all of these games back from the first 2 decades. That's my argument. It's all of the games back from the first 2 decades of the hobby that you should, take a look at and certainly give them a try. And if you can't get the old ones, then look for the latter editions of some of those older games, because there's many games out there that have a long history. And so delve into some of those games that do have a long history, so that you can see where they started from, how they kind of evolved over time. Some stayed exactly the way that they are. I don't believe that there is a second edition of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And so what you have here is what you have here. They just revised throughout the 80s and that's it. I'm surprised that they haven't revisited this, or at least I don't know that they have. Like I said, this is not exactly in my wheelhouse. We may have played it a little bit back in the 80s, but not very much. This came out, by the time I was in high school, and I was really only involved with tabletop role playing for about 2 years after high school, and then kind of stopped. So, so once again, um, comments, any suggestions, certainly anything that you want me to focus on, please feel free to do that. Have a great evening. Take care.